Hola. Bueno, vamos a continuar después de la comida. Gracias por venir. Vamos a continuar con uno de nuestros patrocinadores oro, con Inetun y bueno, con Lucas y con Craig, ¿no? Profesionales de la casa y que bueno, vienen a contarnos algunas de las cosas que hacen, ¿no? Cosas interesantes a las que se dedican. Y nada, la charla en principio va a ser en inglés al final.
Sí, va a ser
¿Vale?
en inglés. Vamos a hacer al final un pequeño resumen en español, ¿vale? Pero va a ser en inglés.
Vale, así que luego al final preguntas en español o en inglés, lo que queráis. Y Lucas o yo, pues traducimos y lo vamos viendo, ¿vale? Venga, un fuerte aplauso.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, hello everyone. Whenever we talk about AI, it's really common to hear if AI will replace human interactions, I mean, entirely or partially. That is not necessarily wrong, but let's face it, that it could be some misconceptions about what can actually do today the AI. Also, we need to say that potentially AI is living around us for more than a decade now. We have Siri and Alexa around there, maybe more often in some houses than others, but they could be really, these assistants could be really help us to explore new frontiers, to help us in some going to a learning process of new topics. And of course, cybersecurity is not behind on that. Saying that, we need to be careful about AI. I mean, I don't know if you all know that AI suffers from hallucinations, biases, and unintended error due to the lack of context that could be applied for different scenarios. But as we can say in these presentations, AI, it could be a really great assistance for a SOC. Isn't that correct, Greg?
Yes, it sure is, Lucas. If you want. So essentially, we're going to do a couple step-by-step examples for you. So this is very basic. It's sort of a red team idea, and it's just analyzing HTML. So I'm more of a blue teamer. I don't know that skill. So this is covering the knowledge gap. Pick any old HTML, and we're just going to tell GPT. In this case, it could be another LLM, but just tell GPT, hey, what do? You help them analyze it. What do? You look for these things. These things I asked GPT to tell me because I'm not a red teamer. And then you tell it what to do. Give us a score 0 to 1, how malicious it might be. So just with that amount of work, you see here, it's doing a pretty decent job. It knows more about HTML than I do. So it's giving an overall score of 0.2. So this isn't really too amazing yet, no problem. Let's move to a more complicated one. So here, this is one where a human definitely knows that this is a fish, but it's not actually so obvious. So sending it through that same malicious HTML analyzer, what does it show? Well, first of all, it's telling us, okay, it understands the concept that this ransom, that there's a red flag just in the natural language. It knows that this is an abnormal thing. So again, like the human, it's able to tell us. And it's picking up that there's a tracking pixel in there. So again, I'm not a red teamer. That's not super meaningful to me. But as a blue team more, I get it, what that means and why that's malicious. So again, with a very simple instruction you just saw, we're bridging this gap. And it's essentially going to give us a rating on this one of 0.9. So
it's very clever. I imagine different scenarios to use this type of example to try to cover an expert gap where SOC first shove or SOC level 1 or also level 2, because not all the guys on SOC have the same experience in all the different fields. So this is a really help for the SOC analyst to understand if the email, or in this case, this threat, is really dangerous or not.
Yeah, indeed. So let's take another example.
Well, I know this one. I have all my big shots on the organization behind this phishing case. I mean, VIPs, BAPs, and also administrators of the organization.
Yep. So let's see what this AI could do for this. Now, overall, again, this is a bit nuanced because the computer is not reading the QR code. So we're not doing any image processing. It's just picking up the fact that there is a QR code based on the context of what's in the mail, text-wise. However, it's still doing a pretty decent job of a security analyst, saying, okay, this is probably a malicious mail. So,
well, I guess that with this type of example, some of you could say, okay, maybe I could replace some people of the SOC. Where we need level 1, if we could have ChatGPT doing this type of analysis, right? Why would I need someone to check this MFA fraud email case if I have something that is doing it really faster and elegant and simple, by the way? But of course, as we mentioned before, there are some risks of using AI. Go ahead.
Yeah, but well, let's not replace anybody, but let's take a little detour here and change it up just a little bit. So let's make a little small enhancement. So I assume that somebody in here has either woken somebody up unnecessarily once in their career or been woken up. So this is a common SOC analyst problem. You got the new people who are afraid to call people. You have the older people who don't want to be woken up unnecessarily. So it's a funny, but let's have GPT give us a score of how angry our colleague is going to be when they get the call from us at 2 a.m. Again, it's a joke, but look at, with just this small amount of language tuning, what you can get. So tell it what to do. How angry will my colleague be, and what defines the anger? It's actually quite nuanced at a human level, but okay. It took a little tuning to get to the point where it understood why it's getting mad. You know, I needed to adjust, but let's say within 5 to 10 minutes of work, this wasn't, you see the complete thing, and let's see what it says here. So, again, giving us the malicious score of 0.9, which is quite decent. And
of course, understand where is the anger score of the analyst that need to be awake, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, in this case, the anger score will be low, 0.1. So I guess that level 1 should call level 2 and wake up some people.
Exactly. And even though this is a joke, think of your own example of, you know, should something make something else happen? If you can define it like that, this could be extremely useful. And if I were a new level 1 analyst, I would like this to give me the confidence to just call my colleague.
Yeah, sure. You know? I mean, the idea is trying to give our SOC people enough tools to empower them, to then give them more confidence to take the right decisions. And this is a simple example, but of course it's giving them more freedom or taking decisions in the afternoons.
Yep. But as we said, this isn't just going to replace people. At first, it can just enhance our work. So it's not just as easy as writing these little things and then going on holiday and leaving GPT to handle your SOC. So Lucas is going to talk a little bit about risk.
So in the meantime, we are talking about AI cases on the SOC. We need to talk about potential risk that we have behind. I think that we all understand that generative AI is not the same as the traditional programming, right? So In SOC scenario, you could have a SOAR solution or some playbook with some solution behind that you already built in your team. And these playbooks, it's always giving you the same and the simple answers for the same inputs and conditions, right? So you have correctly classified all the scenarios and you receive always the same answer behind. But if we really want to explore AI and be honest with you guys, if we really want to provoke AI to be creative, to give us more proper recommendations or more proper analysis, we need to understand some topics here. In the first case, where we talk about the SOAR, the playbooks, this basic one that we already have, these are the deterministic one. If we want to provoke really to use the AI as creative as we need to receive different recommendations than the simple playbook, we need to talk about non-deterministic one cases. So, of course, you could, if you push the AI to be really creative, you could have some octopus sandwiches. I don't know how many people love octopus sandwiches, but in that case, it gives us the opportunity to understand in an SOC environment for real what happens if I give this condition to AI with any human supervision. I mean, it means, if an error on some comments, on some incidents at the end of the change where AI took some decisions on validator or true positive or false positive case, okay, in the meantime it's recommendation or it's only a report of the incidents, that's not a big deal. But what happens if we give the AI the possibility to take decisions around isolating machines, around insulating networks, and of course, why not to our example of taking actions like in a firewall environment, where it could block some ports, it could block some flows, right? It could be really dangerous for us. This is why it's really important to highlight that AI, again, needs to be supervised by a human, by an SOC analyst in this case.
Yep. So beyond those risks, we also want to talk about what's not possible in this generative AI, let's say LLMs or general transformer AI. So now you understand, you have a couple examples of how you could use this in a couple sentences, what kind of value you could squeeze out of it. You also now understand a little bit about the risks of getting an octopus sandwich because you forgot to tell the computer not to make octopus sandwiches explicitly. Now I want to tell you a little bit about where you're going to run out and where you're going to need machine learning. Now, it's a deep topic. I'm not an expert in it either, but it's too much to go into at this time. Just understand that this is the data science aspect. So how should a security analyst respond to a typical incident? That's something for the generative transformers that they can handle because they understand cybersecurity. How does an incident specifically get handled in your organization based on the past? That's something where you're probably going to need to train your own machine learning models. Long story short of this is, you can see here they're referencing, much like in other data science, certain problems have better networks that match them. So clustering, support vector machine, all these, you'll need to research and pick depending on what your need is. Again, this is where you'll need to train something because the generative or general AI isn't working for you. It's not aware of your situation enough. So the good news is, if you're working in security, you're probably collecting and normalizing events. So you're already doing essentially the first thing that you would want to do. Now, what's the next thing to move toward this machine learning? More normalizing. So in our example, what we're doing is what I said. We want to know how given these 1,000 characters representing an incident, what are the next most likely characters in our organization that are going to solve that incident, right? So we need to normalize our incident data, which consists of just basic dumb data science normalization, like lower casing, removing certain Unicode characters, things like that. And then the other normalization of data normalization, what's actually important in the whole sum total of an incident in JSON that actually needs to be handed to the model for training. And that requires some experimentation. So long story short, you're doing probably the beginning of it. You want to start experimenting with the AI to see where it runs out for you, where you don't have any more options and you need to train your own models. And then you need to start training your models such that in 3 to 6 months, you could actually be testing your own machine learning models to solve your own specific problems. So happy to talk about it afterward. We wanted to just give that because it's important to the story. But now I will hand it back over to Lucas to do some more practical examples.
Yeah, so we are going back to the first phishing cases, okay? The idea here is try again to provoke like a case where we use AI and try to see how effective it could be. I guess that you all know what is MITRE ATT&CK framework. In this case, we are going to challenge AI and say, okay, I'm giving you this email. You not only need to tell me how dangerous it could be or the analyst anger score that we told before, but also I want you to give me the contextualizations coming from the MITRE framework. So basically, we are moving this case through AI, and we expect to receive, or how it could receive, like a complete analysis of the case using the MITRE framework. I mean, I remember my first days on the SOC, how difficult it was at the beginning when we don't have a proper solution as a source telling us, okay, these threats match with these tactics and techniques, right? So in this case, could be a really good scenario where we can use AI to cover this gap and do it, I don't know, in a minute or something like that?
No.
It's pretty amazing how you can do. And imagine, again, the possibilities, right? Many times we use the beginnings of the SOC to learn about MITRE framework. Imagine what's the possibility that AI could cover this gap and help empower them to really understand how it must be used and in which cases applies, which tactics and which techniques correctly.
Yep, indeed. And just to restate, again, that was one more sentence. So we had something with an LLM that's working pretty well. You give it one more thing. You just say, oh, make it MITRE aware. And then we get an extra response like this. Very interesting for bridging a tool gap where you're bringing a customer on who doesn't have a MITRE thing, and so let's do a more involved example. So this is our, I guess, biggest example. Here's the idea. Something happens. Something gets picked out of that, so a suspected malicious domain. The human comes to work on it, and they consult many sources, think about it, and take a decision. So this is normal. So let's try putting an LLM in the middle of it so that when the analyst arrives, they actually already have all this information. So we send it to the LLM, and okay, the quality is there. Just like you saw for the tracking pixel, it's better than your average generalist. It's better than your low-level expert even. Okay, so we have the triple constraint triangle, cost, speed, quality. Quality is high. How much does this cost? On GPT-4, this costs a couple cents to send something like this and get it back, and it takes about 30 seconds, let's say. So that could be a problem depending on how many incidents you want to call per month, but it's not ridiculously expensive.
No, but
on its
also
face.
I think that you could create like a model, right? Using some release, different version of ChatGPT.
Yep.
But in this case, you can see this is a typical threat that is analyzed by the SOC. Imagine the capabilities of the AI if you use it correctly. If this that we have on your right, if this is the analysis the first analysis that you receive for every threat that is taking place on the SOC. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, indeed. So as an analyst myself, I would like to arrive to an incident that already has all this information. I can make my own decision whether I agree with it, but I generally would. And also, as you can see here, the wheels should be turning in your head. Also for a lot of documentation tasks for red teamers. But you see that, okay, it's telling us to block it on the firewall. It's not a long leap to say, next year we'll output JSON, and for certain categories, we'll just make the API call. Right? You can see how it starts with advice, but it could quickly spiral into automation. And that's where you need to consider the risks, really, because, bad things can happen if you automatically block on the firewall, right?
I mean, AI needs to be guided, trained, and always under control of a human supervisor.
Yep. So we have a little Jupyter notebook here just to show you this is how that was done. So we have a malicious indicator from an incident, essentially Bitcoin 360XYZ. It does a simple API call to VirusTotal. It does one to the SOC's MISP instance. Just with those two pieces of data, there are more we can add in the future. We just combine it in a simple array, and we write a similar short instruction for this to tell it what to do. Do this for VirusTotal, do that. As you see there, it took about 35 seconds, and then we have that entire report. So 35 seconds could be too long in some scenarios, but for me, no, it just depends on what we're talking about. But most incidents are not picked up in the first minute, so this is okay. But again, I would much prefer to arrive to a console that has this information than just starting from scratch and going to VirusTotal myself. So, to sort of summarize, what do we recommend you do? First of all, experiment with this stuff. See what's possible and where you run out of knowledge in those models. And also prepare for the risk. Prepare for your octopus sandwich you didn't expect. So you need to add quality gates in, different types of checks, and a lot of testing. API version changes on these LLMs could be huge. So there's a lot of considerations you have to make. Yes, and then, like this anger score evaluation, implement these high-value, very intelligent, but low-risk scenarios. If the analyst calls the wrong guy, okay, it's not the end of the world. It's not like isolating all the servers. So
no, but at least you are giving the SOC as the first sample of an analysis with the proper analysis for the AI recommendation, some scoring about, okay, do I need to, I don't know, play this procedure and call the people that is on shift? Or I need to wake up something or not? I mean, as for example, I think it's really, really good to help our team to do the analysis better and to take better decisions.
Yep, indeed. And finally, that's all those recommendations before. Are you squeezing what you can out of these generative transformer models? You will reach the end where you'll need some kind of specialized ML. So for example, if you have a product like Splunk or Sentinel and it's doing anomaly detection, that is using one of these generalized machine learning models to detect anomalies, right? But you may need your own specific ML model. So with that, that's our talk and advice, and I'll hand it back to Lucas to send us out here. There you go.
Okay. Actualmente la IA está siendo introducida en distintos campos, está revolucionando distintas industrias. Lo que es importante, como siempre decimos, y el enfoque que hemos intentado darle en esta presentación, ¿no? Es qué nos depara en el futuro de un SOC dentro del campo de la IA. ¿Puede ser la IA una gran ayuda para nuestros analistas? ¿Puede ser la IA una herramienta que nos ayude a cubrir una falta de calidad o una falta de experiencia en algunos campos donde no tenemos expertos? Todos tenemos aquel gurú que puede ser que se vaya de vacaciones, como puede ser que se ausente de la organización y necesitamos cubrir ese tipo de rol. Pues este tipo de herramientas me parece de momentos algo crucial para ayudar al equipo a tener más información, a tener más confianza en el tipo de decisiones que tiene que tomar. Por supuesto, como decíamos antes, hay que tener cuidado. Las IA sufren de alucinaciones, sufren de sesgos. Si otorgamos a las IAs la posibilidad de tomar control de un ambiente, de tomar decisiones sin supervisión, podríamos poner en riesgo toda una organización. Somos Lucas y Craig, and I hope that you feel these presentations, I don't know, wonderful? What is the word?
Interesting.
Interesting, yeah. Thank you very much.
¿Alguna pregunta? Español, inglés, incluso catalán te dejo, ¿no? Lo que quieras. Marc.
Hello. I'll do it in English, also for
Thank
Craig.
you, thank you.
So I have two questions, actually. One of them is, can you imagine a future where we don't have any more like those level 1 human-level decisions, and we will have like a bunch of analysts that will say something like, hey, give me all the privilege escalation attempts that I have in my network, independently of the technology and the vendors that the customer has, using AI?
Yes. So, someday, yes. But I think then there will be other level 1 tasks. So I don't see it immediately eliminating, but I do see it reducing.
Transforming, maybe.
Yeah, but also just if I think of, I have certain, in the customers I work at, I have certain things that augment it like that, and it saves me time, you know, so. But I think it would have to, you see like it's finding tracking pixels in HTML, it's very good. It's going to replace somebody. Let's put it like that.
I mean, I like it what I guess Lucas said, that at the end of the day, we have those kind of super expert guy in the company that knows how to do the perfect query in Splunk to do blah, 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 whatever. But at the end of the day, who cares about that? I mean, what the customer needs is to extract the threat or whatever and make the analysis on the next level. But what we need is to maybe give the capability to the technology to do some work for us, and AI can build those queries for us and do the job for us. I mean, it's something that will happen for sure.
That's another example. Something like query building is a low risk. If it gets the query wrong, you'll put a human in the middle. They'll find out before, you know, before you take it to another level. So indeed.
Maybe the question is how we are going to train our people to use correctly AI and to, I mean, not depend only on the AI decisions, to understand that the AI could be really a powerful tool, but they need to think, analyze, and help to take the decisions as an expert or as an SOC analyst. I think that's going to be a challenge. Like you say, many people could think that probably in a few years with AI, I could start in the cybersecurity field and be like the same guy that is being here for 2 years or 5 years or 10 years. And it's not like that. I mean, experience working all night, seeing the threats in your screen, you know, and not always understand what you need to do. Maybe the AI could help us to go faster, to go directly to the point, but not is going to give you this type of experience. So,
but I'm sure we will be more like prompt experts in future. I'm sure.
Designers, I mean prompt designers, yeah.
And the second question is regarding like the privacy concerns level that we have with OpenAI, I mean, uploading the data to that company that we never know what they will do with that data. And customers are like concerned about, hey, you are using AI, but maybe you are uploading or sharing with OpenAI our, I don't know, business logic model, or maybe threats that are targeting me. And what are you guys up to? I mean, use Gemini AI, OpenAI, or maybe build a local LLM, whatever model to train our data and then do actions.
Is essentially similar to just cloud services. Like you have to have some level of trust in your cloud service provider. So for example, that stuff came off of Azure OpenAI, where the customer has more confidence that Microsoft isn't going to violate its contract to use your data for training. Okay, you never know for sure, but you have pretty high confidence. And if it's, I don't have direct experience with Gemini, but I quite assume they also have private business instances.
At the end, 5A's is there as well. I mean, at the end, it's like a U.S. company with the U.S. regulation. I mean,
the 5 Eyes.
Yeah,
Indeed.
There are some concerns there out there as well that we have to take into consideration.
That's true. I would also say at the technical level, I think there's probably easier ways to exfiltrate data from a company than by trying to crack an LLM.
Absolutely.
But I see what you're saying, but essentially I'll give the easy answer, which is, yes, you could either run your own private ones, which will definitely be insecure because they're run by you, or you can trust your cloud service provider and make sure you go through the policy and see what they promise to do and not do.
Super.
But I definitely would not be dumping customer IPs into like the OpenAI public API, even though they promise not to train off it also.
Thank you. Was a hard one. Thank you.
¿Alguna pregunta más? No, pues un fuerte aplauso. Juan, ¿puedes? ¿Ya? ¿Queréis dar otra?
Se me ha ido.
¿Es vuestro?
Déjalo que lo
Son estos dos, ¿vale?
ahí las pilas son de Accenture.
Eso vale.
Esto es vuestro también, ¿no?
No. ¿Qué va?
Solo esto, ¿no?
Lo que es mío es...
Es de enchufe también, ¿no?
Vale, perfecto, sí. Va a venir bien.
Gracias. Gracias, chicos.
Vale.
Pasa.
Esta. A ver si es que si no, para ir pasando la transparencia es un coñazo.
Este o te dejo el mío, que confío en menos.
¿Qué? ¿Perdón?
Si era una presentación, es este...
Vale.
¿De cuál te fías menos?
Me da igual. A este mismo, da lo mismo. Si al final uno que otro es
igual
de problemático.
poco confiable.
Sí.
Bueno, continuamos. Está ahora con nosotros Juan de